The number of convicted criminals inside the country illegally is staggering. Local Democrats get busted in a fake racism scheme. Plus, a new Gallup poll reveals a historic first for Republicans. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
God bless the United States of America.
Okay, friends, welcome to the show. Happy Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. If you're new to the show, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to start with the staggering border data that was released Friday, which provides a stunning indictment of the Biden-Harris open border policies. Since former President Trump was running for president the first time, he has consistently emphasized the fact that there is a bunch of bad people coming across the border. Every time he would say something like this, the Democrats and the media would jump all over him and call him a racist. Well, guess what? Trump has been right all along, and the number of people, bad people, murderers, rapists, and others who are roaming the streets of America under Biden and Harris is at such a level that no wonder that every week there's a new story of someone being robbed or assaulted or killed by someone who is in this country illegally. On Friday, a letter from the acting director of ICE to Representative Tony Gonzalez was released to the media, outlining the reality of what America is facing from violent illegal aliens.
On ICE's non-detained docket, they're currently tracking 425,000 non-citizens who have been convicted of a crime. Of that number, over 13,000 non-citizens have convictions for homicide and are on the non-detained docket, meaning they're roaming the country right now. On top of that, there are another 15,811 non-citizens convicted of sexual assault.
Just stunning. To recap, there are over 400,000 illegal aliens in this country with criminal convictions. The Biden-Harris administration knows about them, and they are in this country anyway, including over 13,000 murderers and nearly 16,000 people convicted of sexual assault. Here's more.
The ICE director also says there are currently just under 1,900 non-citizens on the non-detained docket who have pending homicide charges who are roaming the country, and another 4,250 non-citizens who have pending sexual assault charges who are roaming the country.
So, add all that together, and you have nearly 650,000. That's 650,000 people inside America illegally who have a criminal conviction or criminal charges pending against them, including around 15,000 for murder and some 20,000 for sexual assault. Is it any wonder why the border is a top issue for Americans? Communities across the country are feeling the impacts, and former President Trump has vowed to stop it.
On day one of my new administration, the invasion ends and the deportations begin. We get them out. I will send in the federal law enforcement to liberate every Pennsylvania town and every town in the United States of America that has been taken over by migrant gangs and thugs and criminal aliens.
One note to add to this criminal data. This data is obviously based on what is known. Border agents encounter a person, figure out who he or she is, and then learn their criminal history. Biden and Harris then release them into the country. But this doesn't account for the estimated 2 million plus gotaways. These are people who through video surveillance or other means we know have crossed the border and disappeared into the country. How many of them are murderers or sexual assaulters or human traffickers or drug dealers or gang members? The fact is that Harris has deliberately left the border open, and it's not only for potential Democrat voters, it's not only to affect congressional representation from the census, but it's also an attack on our American culture and American way of life. In America, we don't eat people's pets. If you want to come here legally and come here to be an American. It's as simple as that. All right, next let's talk about the ongoing Democrat tactic of using race as a weapon. But first, if you're new to the show or haven't subscribed yet, regardless of platform, just search out my name, hit that subscribe button, make sure notifications are turned on. That way you can follow the show and help us grow. Next, let's talk about Democrat KP George. And if you aren't familiar with the name, that's his mugshot right over there, you'll recognize the tactics for sure. In the 2022 election cycle, this Democrat county judge was running for re-election in my county outside of Houston, Texas. He wound up in the news because he claimed he was getting racist social media messages directed at him by Republicans and supporters of his Republican opponent. Now fast forward to this election cycle, and KP George's former chief of staff, Terrell Patel, is now a Democrat candidate. And guess what he did? He pulled from the same playbook and received Houston media coverage by claiming that he was also a victim of racist social media posts by Republicans and supporters of his Republican opponent. But this time, an investigation was launched into finding out who was behind these racist messages. Some of the posts came from a Facebook user named Antonio Scallywag, a clearly fake name, so investigators sought to find out who this person was. It turns out that this was all a hoax of Jussie Smollett proportions. According to law enforcement warrants, Antonio Scallywag was an account used by Patel and George to send fake racist messages to themselves, blame Republicans, and influence elections. And they've now been busted.
Fort Bend County Judge KP George has been quiet for the most part since his indictment for the misdemeanor charge of misrepresenting the identity of a candidate.
Do you think that your constituents should still trust you?
I don't have any comment at this time.
We went to his house to once again ask about the accusations. Officials believe he used a fake social media account to attack himself and others by posting racist and hateful comments in order to gain sympathy support in the 2022 election that he ultimately won. No one answered the door.
Now, this race-baiting Democrat has issued a statement proclaiming his innocence and that he will not step down from office. But the evidence against our own Jussie Smollett, aka Antonio Scallywag, is, let's just say, substantial.
Officials say they have evidence of his guilt. Page 16 of the search warrant mentions Georgia's former chief of staff, Taraj Patel. Patel was arrested back in June on a felony charge of online impersonation for his role in the alleged hoax. The warrant shows what officials say are text messages between the two, where George coached Patel to post antagonizing messages through that fake Facebook profile. And on page 17 of the warrant, officials suggest George may have tried to reset one of 3 phones seized, because there were 15 failed password attempts, and that particular phone resets itself after 20 unsuccessful attempts.
A fake racist scheme that has now been laid out before the public. And here's the thing, the Democrats will continue to use this tactic unless they are called out on it. They bank that they can label Republicans or conservatives as racist, and we'll just roll over and hide. Not anymore. To show the level of arrogance and the politics of racial division, while all of this is going on in Fort Bend County, my county, another Democrat, a sitting district court judge named Tamika Carter, participated in a candidate forum this past Thursday and said this.
Because these Republicans from the top to the bottom, we know what they stand for. And when I tell you they're tough on crime philosophy, means lock as many of us up as possible, that is what they run on, that is what they do.
Now, if you didn't catch all of that because of the echo, what this Democrat said to a predominantly black audience, this sitting district court judge, was this, quote, "These Republicans from the top to the bottom, we know what they stand for. When I tell you that their tough on crime philosophy means locking as many of us up as possible, that is what they run on, that is what they do," end quote. If you see something like this in your area, call it out, record it, post it. Anyone who seeks to divide based on race has no business holding office. Black, white, brown, it doesn't matter. We are all Americans, and we should lift each other up and debate issues on their merits, not avoid issues by playing the race card. Those days are over. All right, next let's talk about a new poll from Gallup that reveals not only an interesting, but actually historic new trend. Perhaps it's a culmination of the border economy and crime. Perhaps it's issues such as DEI, boys and girls sports in locker rooms, or playing the racial politics of division. Whatever it is, people are getting fed up with today's Democrat Party and are identifying more than ever with Republicans. As a quick note, NBC News reported this weekend on Hispanic voters, and the news should send shockwaves across the Democrat establishment.
The bigger story here is historically, 54-40 now is a 14-point advantage for the Democrats. Take a look back at the last 3 presidential elections, and these were the results in the exit polls among Hispanic voters. That 14, look at that cut there, almost 20 points less than just 4 years ago. And 4 years ago, we were saying Donald Trump had made inroads with Hispanic voters. This suggests that that has continued.
Great trend. But as Gallup shows in its new poll, Americans in general are turning away from the radical policies of the left and are embracing Republicans. For the first time in the history of the Gallup poll, more Americans identify with the Republican Party than with the Democrats at this stage in a presidential election cycle. By a tally of 48% to 45%, Americans either identify as Republican or lean Republican at this stage in the race. As you can see from the chart, only in 2004 do Republicans manage a tie, but never a lead. Gallup found that the main issues on voters' minds, the economy, immigration, and government, are the issues where Republicans hold the upper hand. This bodes well for Republicans, but we have to deliver on these issues and return the government back to the people and away from the ruling elite. And next, here are some rapid-fire headlines from around the country. First, as reported by the Post Millennial, NPR is blaming beef-eating men for climate change. That's right, big old he-men eating burgers and steaks, not those white guys for Kamala, I guess, are aiding the climate crisis because, quote, scientists say that beef is worse than any other food when it comes to global warming. Apparently, NPR wants an army of beta men to save the planet. Next, former Democrat presidential candidate and climate czar John Kerry said at a World Economic Forum panel discussion what many Democrats and those in the media are now saying, that the First Amendment has got to go because it just keeps getting in the way of their plans to silence the opposition.
But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So what we need is to win the ground, win the right to govern by hopefully having, winning enough votes that you're free to be able to implement change.
Wow, it's unreal what the left will do and say and what they want to do to our Constitution. And finally, the Boise State women's volleyball team forfeited its Saturday game against San Jose State because San Jose State has a man playing on the women's team. No specific reason was given for the forfeit, but the message is clear. Women's sports are for women, not men pretending to be women. Idaho Governor Brad Little, in a posting on X, applauded the move and wrote, quote, "We need to ensure player safety for all of our female athletes and continue the fight for fairness in women's sports," end quote. Amen to that, and a great move by Boise State. Friends, that's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. And remember, today's show's one sheet is available to Patreon supporters using the link in the description. The one sheet gives you the links to all the videos and stories used on today's show, so you can dive even deeper into each issue. And with that, our next show will be Friday evening at the usual time. Until then, I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour. All right, friends, thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. And before you go, please hit that subscribe button above. Once you do, tell your friends, share it, spread the word about the 13-minute news hour so we can keep growing. And for more great content, check out these videos right here, and I'll see you next time.